So we have just finished doing an install. We still need to do the tidying up, but this video is just giving you a walkthrough of a sprinkler system, outlining all the major components, and hopefully it can give you a better understanding of how a sprinkler system works. So the first part of the sprinkler system is the water meter. This is our source of the water. Now, some sprinkler systems, they're going to operate off a well, but for this video we are working off of a system where it is getting its water from the city. So we have our water meter in here, and currently we have the shut-off valve in the off position. We then have a service line which is deep, it's underground, and it's running all the way up to the house, and somewhere up by the house you're going to have a valve box right here, and inside this valve box, deep down in there, you have the customer shut-off valve. If you turn that valve off, that's going to stop all water going inside the house. Now what we do is we dig a hole right by the customer shut-off valve, unless of course it's PEX. If it's PEX, then we'll go closer to the water meter because the PEX is going to restrict the flow. But for this system was put in with PVC, so we're able to cut in really close, and this is where we made our points of connection. So we got our T running up, we used 490s to reconnect. We have our isolation valve. This is the isolation valve just for the sprinkler system. So right now it's in the open position. If I give it a quarter turn, this has isolated the sprinkler system, but we still have water going to the house. We then have our Y strainer, which is a filter. We then have our backflow prevention device, and in this case it is a double check. It has two shut-off valves, one located here and one located here, and inside this middle section is where you're going to find your two check valves. This device protects the house water from back pressure and back siphonage, so it's stopping the dirty water from the sprinkler system going back into the main line and contaminating the clean drinking water. Our main line then continues down where we have our first control valve. Water then comes in through this T, hits this control valve, and it stops right here. These control valves are normally in the closed position, so whenever this pressure's up, water will stop here, water will continue down along this trench. Underneath this trench and in the backyard there are three control valves. I'm going to take you around there now. On the other side of the fence, the main line runs underneath. Inside this trench you can see we have main line, we have wire, and we also have a half-inch line. That half-inch line is a lateral line that runs to some sprinkler heads. We're going to follow this main line going all the way down, and then this is our final valve box where we have three control valves. We like to install manifolds, so you can see this main line comes down this way, 90s in, hits another 90, and then we have a T, and a 90, and this is where our main line stops at these three control valves. I'm going to go over the wiring in a bit, but I'm going to show you the controller first. But while we're out here, whenever this valve turns on, either from the controller or by turning it on manually, and you can turn it on manually, you can see you've got this little plastic thing on the side. If you grab that and twist it, that will create a change in pressure within the valve. Water will then flow through the lateral line and go to all of the heads. So in this case, it would run this way, hit all of the heads going along this fence line. It's also going to run all the way down there, take a right, and it's going to run all of the heads along the side of the house. I'm going to go ahead and turn that back off. The next thing we're going to look at is the controller, and we're going to look at wiring. Now at the controller, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to open up the base, which is going to expose all of the wires. Now I've got a valve down here for demonstration. You have a solenoid. At the top of the solenoid there are two wires that come off of it. One of these wires connects to the common, the other wire connects to a field wire. It doesn't matter which way round it is. One has to connect to the common, the other connects to the field wire. Let's go back to our controller and take a look. So we have the common, C, which is a white wire. So every single valve on the property is going to be connected to the white wire. We then have four more wires. We have zone 1, which is red, zone 2, which is yellow, zone 3, which is green, zone 4, which is blue. So each valve, the second wire connected to the solenoid, is going to be connected to one of these colored wires. I'm going to take you out to the field. I'm going to show you one of the valves and show you what it looks like. We are in the front yard. We have a solo valve, and as you can see, one of the wires is connected to the common. This black wire then goes to the top of the solenoid. The second black wire that comes off of the solenoid is connected to the red wire. Now this is the last valve at the end of the run, so you can see the common is cut, is connected, and it doesn't reconnect to anything else because there's no other valves that we need to connect onto. I'm going to take you to the backyard where we have a 3-valve manifold where it looks a little bit different. We're now in the backyard where we have our manifold. There's 3 valves. Now it looks like a little bit of a rat's nest, but once we get the valve box on, it will look a lot nicer and a lot more tidy. So let's just go over all of these wires. So remember, we have 2 wires coming off each solenoid. One of these wires is going to connect to the common. So you can see we have our common here, and unlike the front yard where there was just 1 white wire, this time the common is coming from there. So it's coming from the garage, which comes all the way around. It then comes to this splice box here, and then it needs to continue. This wire goes all the way to the front to that final valve box. So we have to tie the white wire into itself. Now, quite a lot of the times where you might have an issue where you go to turn a zone on and nothing works, usually the culprit is the common. So go through each valve box, poke your head inside, take a look, and most likely it's probably going to be something to do with this common. So make sure that you've got a good connection and that they're actually connected to go the whole way through. So that's our common, and it's connected to each solenoid, so 1, 2, and 3. We then have our yellow wire, which is connected to this first valve. We have our blue wire, which is connected to this middle solenoid, and then we have our green wire, which is connected to this final one. So we have 4 colored wires, each going to a single valve, and then we have our common, which is going to every single valve on the property. I'm now back at the controller. Now this house doesn't have any power, but essentially what's happening is each time you turn a valve on, so let's say you turn on station 1, what's going on is you're sending voltage down the common and zone 1. So 24 volts of electricity is going through these wires, creating a circuit, and it's activating the solenoid. Once that solenoid is activated, it creates a change in pressure within the valve. Water then goes through the laterals, and the heads, or whatever emitter you have, emits water. When you go to zone 2, voltage stops going out of the common and zone 1 wire, and instead it goes out of common and zone 2 and all the way through. But it's pretty straightforward. We also have our rain freeze sensor, which again hasn't got any power. The power is then going through here, it's connecting to our 24 vac. We have our rain sense, the white and the blue. It doesn't matter which way round you do it, but the white and the blue does need to go into these sense ports. It does have an orange wire, but we don't need to install that. I'll take you around the side of the house to show you where the rain freeze sensor actually goes. Our rain freeze sensor. It just needs to be in a location where it can get wet, so we need to make sure that there's nothing overhead. Ideally, we'd like to put it on the side of the house, but on the side of the fence is fine. As long as it's not going to get wet from the sprinkler system, then this is perfectly fine. And this is going to turn the controller off whenever it rains or if it's below freezing. Pretty much sums it up. That brings to an end of my walkthrough of a sprinkler system. Now keep in mind, this is specific to Texas, in Abilene. Sprinkler systems look different all across the United States, and it's personal preference. There is no right or wrong way to do it. But one thing we do need to make sure that we do always have on a sprinkler system is a backflow prevention device, because that is going to protect the dirty water from the sprinkler system going back into the main line. At the end of the day, our job is water conservation. That's what we're looking after. We're looking after a natural resource, which, although there is a lot of water, there is not a lot of usable water because of salt. So we need to make sure we are looking after that resource as much as we can. And that's why we install those rain freeze sensors, because the worst thing you can see as an irrigator is driving past a house when it's chucking it down with rain and seeing the sprinkler system run at the same time. But as I said, systems look different from state to state or even from city to city. If you install yours differently, that's all great. Keep doing it. Cheers, guys. Thank you.